There's a new firehouse-themed distillery in Montgomery County, and that's nothing but good news for golfers looking to keep it local. I'm Taylor Tropea, and I'm here on Main Street in Norristown, and for today's short drive, we're taking you inside Five Saints Distilling.
Cheers.
So we're here in the Five Saints cocktail bar with one of the owners and the distiller, John George. Tell us a little bit about the place. What can customers expect when they come here?
So when you come to Five Saints Distilling, you're actually coming to the historic Humane Fire Engine Company #1, which is the building that we're in right now. It was originally commemorated in 1888, so it's a very historic building, which we've been rehabbing both on the outside and inside. So when folks come to Five Saints Cocktail Bar and Distillery, one, they can come for a tour. We offer those on Saturdays throughout the day. Typically, we would come in for cocktails, and we serve our whatever offering we have at present. Right now, we have a vodka, a triple distilled vodka, and a white whiskey. We have cosmopolitans, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys for vodka drinks, and a host of others. And then we also, the laws have changed. Now we can serve Pennsylvania wine. And we can also serve Pennsylvania microbrewed beers. Notice there's no televisions in here right now.
Yes.
It's a great vibe. Folks that are telling us they just love the vibe, they love the atmosphere. It's very relaxing, it's very welcoming. It's, you know, firehouses were a place, yes, to house fire apparatus, but they're also a way to belong to an organization, a community gathering spot. And now, originally commemorated in 1888, here we are in 2016. It's a way for people to again gather. So it's a gathering spot for Norristonians, but also for people from Conshohocken. We're getting people from Philly, King of Prussia, around the entire area. So it's neat to see that happen. Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked a little bit about the history of the building. So what can we expect throughout the building in terms of, you know, showing off the history?
So again, I mentioned we have tours.
Yes.
And when we purchased the building, the Humane Fire Engine Company, their society basically granted us permission to use all of their merchandise, their memorabilia into perpetuity, as long as we, one, never sell it, which we would never do, but two, just display it and tell the story of the Humane. By the way, the place is haunted. It's haunted by good ghosts, though. They're good ghosts.
They're good ghosts.
They're good ghosts. They're the firemen. They're the firemen who never left.
Okay.
And that was told to me after I purchased the place. And the very first thing I did is I went up to the 3rd floor, and essentially during the daylight, because there's no electricity up there.
It's a smart move.
And I had a discussion with the guys, and I read their names. I looked at the big picture. I said, Mr. Jenkins, and I read each of their last names. I said, here's the deal. So we've purchased the building. We're going to be working here late at night, and I don't want you scaring the you-know-what out of me. So in return for you being the gentleman fireman that I know you are, that I will leave 5 gallons of whiskey in a barrel with the top off in the back during the holidays, and you guys can have a great time. You don't even have to go through the wood.
And that's worked out well for you so far?
Well, this is the first year, but so far it's been good. I'm very comfortable at night in here. And,
do you ever hear anything?
Actually, I've never heard anything, but we do have one picture that won't stay straight. So I straighten it, and I'll come in the next day and it'll be crooked.
Well, you got to respect their opinions.
I do.
You know, you're sharing the building with them.
I do, and I think they're enjoying it, though. I leave the music on all the time. On Wednesdays, we do readings from newspapers that were left to us, 1839, 1840.
Wow.
Kind of gives a nice feel for life of Norristown and life in the fire department way back when. We try to keep it, you know, celebrate Norristown history and culture. Right now, we offer food via food trucks. We are looking at having different entrees that we can serve as more quick bar-type food. We have our small batch handcrafted popcorn, like our spirits. Yes, mine too. And it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. So I've been dying to ask this question. Yes. Tell us about the Five Saints Distilling name. Where did that come from?
Where the name. So when I was at Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, and I know you're smiling because you're wondering, Moonshine, yes, there is a Moonshine University, there is. And I wanted to call it Five Fathers Distilling. And the reason being is that we have some pictures hanging up here of 5 gentlemen. The middle guy is my dad, actually, who died at a very young age. But he had 3 brothers who stepped up to the plate, and another gentleman, a friend of his, who said, look, can't bring him back, but we're going to raise you. We're going to teach you everything we know. And then the other guy is Giovanni, who got engaged to my mom in 1972. My dad died in 70. He got engaged to my mom in 72. I wanted to celebrate that fact, so I wanted to call it Five Fathers Distilling. And what we found out, my wife and I, is that that name had been used by Jim Beam. They just came out with the Five Fathers limited edition. So I thought about it a little bit more and realized that, you know, I was a real royal pain in the you-know-what for these guys to bring up. And I said, you know, they're like a bunch of saints. And it occurred to me, wait, five fathers, five saints. So Five Saints Distilling. If I can't call them fathers, they were fathers, I'll call them Five Saints. So that's where the name comes from, Five Saints Distilling.
What a great story. All right, so how about you show us where it all happens?
Sure, let's go into the distillery.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Okay, so why don't you tell us where we are right now?
Sure, so we're in the distillery of Five Saints Distilling, and what actually we're standing right next to is the stand where we're going to put what's called a corn tin. We buy our corn locally, and all of our grains locally, and you'll see a little bit of dried corn here as well as rye. The objective is to make as much starch available to the yeast as possible, so we grind it in our hammer mill. We then auger it up into this, what's essentially a big steam cooker. We'll inject steam in and we'll bring it up to about 100 degrees centigrade, which is about 212. We'll then cool it down. We add our yeast, get a nice mash going, and then we basically pump it via one of a number of pumps, Huey, Louie, or Big Richard, into these other fermentation tanks. And we have 3 fermentation tanks. Those are my uncles. Those are 3 of the saints. And those are the pictures that you saw out there earlier. We named the cooker Marcella because that was my grandmother and their mother. So she kind of gives birth and transfers over to these guys to kind of take care of their fermented batch. And I will say that Joe is doing a better job than Bob. Bob and I have to have a discussion. So once we have our fermented mash, we'll pump our product into the pot still. So what you see here is a pot still and column stills made by Carl out of Germany, one of the oldest distillery manufacturers in the world. And depending on what we're doing, we'll either do it 2 times or 3 times. The steam is, the distillate essentially goes up through, carries the pipes around, goes into our column stills, and then comes out via the little parrot here and into a flexible tank. Very quick rendition of what happens here, but when it's going, very loud, a lot of activity going on. And what we're going to be doing next is we'll be taking these low wines and turning it into quite a bit of concentrated vodka.
And how long does this take? A couple of days, a day?
Yeah. It's a great question. On average, we're finding it's about 2 weeks to actually, from the grinding of the corn, cooking of the corn, fermenting, distillation, bottling, there's about 2 weeks. And by the way, we have bottling parties, so 1,000 bottles at a time. So we put that out on our website. It's been a lot of fun, and it's a great way to get a lot of bottles labeled.
Open to the public?
Open to the public. We ask for volunteers. We need a certain number of volunteers, and they have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so, and you cross that one off your bucket list that you bottled at a distillery.
And you bottle them in this room as well?
Bottle them right in this room.
Can you show us?
Yeah. So right now you're in the bottling and proofing section of the distillery. And what you see there is our bottling machine, which came from Italy. We do 4 bottles at a time. That little blue apparatus there is our labeling machine. We label 1 bottle at a time, and years from now, that'll be in a museum at the new Five Saints Distilling production plant, which will be spitting off thousands of bottles a minute. But that's the end, and that's where we basically will then bottle, we'll case it, and out the door it goes.
Start to finish, it all happens in here, and then it's ready to be served right out there.
We serve it right out there, fresh from the distillery.
We learned a little bit about the history of this place. This is actually a fireman's hat from the year 1852. This place is extremely rich in history and also has awesome cocktails. And our head bartender, Ben Roberts over here, has a nice little cocktail for me. This is an amaretto sour with egg white, correct?
Yep.
That's delicious. I'm Taylor Tropea for A Short Drive. That's it for today, but you can always find more ideas by visiting valleyforge.org. We'll see you next time.